Hi, I'm Shashank Bhargav, and you're listening to Three Things, the Indian Express news show. In this episode, we talk about the status of the Hathras gangrape case after 1 year and how it has impacted the victim's family. We will also talk about why the longtime coach of javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra was fired despite him winning an Olympic gold medal. But first, we talk about the BJP. In the past 7 months, the BJP has changed the chief ministers of 3 states, Gujarat, Karnataka and Uttarakhand. In fact, in Uttarakhand, the chief ministers were changed twice during this period. These new chief ministers are different from the ones that BJP, under the leadership of PM Narendra Modi, has traditionally picked. Earlier, the party used to pick leaders from non-dominant castes. But now, that is not the case. The leaders now all belong to dominant caste communities. In this segment, we speak to Liz Mathew, who writes on the BJP for the newspaper, about this new strategy. And she starts by talking about what the party had planned when PM Modi first came to power.
When the BJP came into power in 2014, under the leadership of Narendra Modi, the party leadership was taken over by both Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. Both the leaders, the duo, had led the party and they were taking all the decision. And it was the time that they did all kinds of experiment with the party. Experiment is not the word I am using. It is the word which Amit Shah himself has used in an interview with us. They tried to have the chief ministers in the states like Jharkhand when after the party won. The Jharkhand is a tribal-dominated state. So they tried to have a non-tribal chief minister. In Maharashtra, they installed or appointed Devendra Fadnavis, a Brahmin, a non-Maratha. And in Haryana, a non-Jat. Manohar Lal Khattar is not a Jat leader. Later, the party leaders said that it was an attempt to ride over the caste barriers, so break the caste barriers in politics, and to have leaders cutting across caste lines as the chief minister.
So this is what they did in Haryana, Jharkhand and Maharashtra. But Liz says that after the party returned to the centre in 2019 with a landslide majority, these 3 chief ministers, Manohar Lal Khattar, Raghuvar Das and Devendra Fadnavis, they could not repeat BJP's success in the state elections.
Both Fadnavis and Raghuvar Das failed to return to power. The Fadnavis, to be fair to them, the BJP along with the Shiv Sena emerged as the winner. But obviously what happened, the Shiv Sena broke away. Even Fadnavis could not keep his allies together in a traditional ally with him in the state. Manohar Lal Khattar returned to power, but with the help of a newly formed party like JJP. Compared to BJP's victory at the centre or compared to their previous victories, it was not even considered as a success story. So somehow that experiment had some setbacks, like Amit Shah in an interview with the Indian Express in April said that I would not call it a failure, but I would say that it was a setback.
But now, of course, this strategy seems to have changed. Now the party has been picking leaders from the dominant communities. And BJP's decision does seem heavily influenced by the caste factor. Plus, Liz says that picking dominant caste leaders means that they will prove powerful in the state units.
Like what happened in Uttarakhand in March when Trivendra Singh Rawat was the chief minister. Obviously, there was a lot of internal fight and also BJP's ideological parent RSS was unhappy with the kind of performance he was having. So they had to replace him with Tirath Singh Rawat, again a Thakur, like Trivendra Singh Rawat, who was his predecessor. Then in July, they had to again change him because of the governance issues, because Tirath Singh Rawat could not perform well and the party was under pressure. So the BJP leadership had to pick somebody else, Dhami, as the new chief minister, again from the Thakur community. So if you go to the south, Karnataka, a kind of bastion for BJP in the south. Yes, Yediyurappa was calling his shots there. He's a Lingayat leader. Lingayat community is BJP's prominent support base. So there were these rumors that BJP maybe tried to expand in an attempt to expand its base and core support base. They might pick somebody or choose somebody from another community like Dalit or OBC. But at the end of the day, they had to end up choosing someone from the same community.
The party picked Basavaraj Bommai, who, like his predecessor, belonged to the Lingayat community. And this is what happened in Gujarat as well, where a member from an influential community was picked. Vijay Rupani was replaced by Bhupendra Patel, who is from the dominant Patidar community.
In 2016, at the peak of Patidar agitation, the BJP went for a non-Patel leader who was Vijay Rupani, a Jain. But Patel agitation is not so strong now. Of course, there are demands from the community, which is again a strong support base of BJP in Gujarat, has been demanding that there should be a Patel chief minister. But there is no agitation. There is no such pressure as you had in 2016. That time you had to go for a risk taking or a gamble. But this time again, you are back to this picking a leader from the dominant caste. One is that Vijay Rupani's unpopularity and also the Patel community's displeasure and the way Aam Aadmi Party is coming up in Saurashtra region. Saurashtra region, as you know, that BJP having a very strong hold in that region and where AAP has started making some inroads. So the BJP had to go back to their dominant caste formula, which has been traditionally followed by many parties.
And she says whether it is Congress or the Samajwadi Party or Bahujan Samaj Party, everyone looks for a leader based on caste factors in the region.
So the Modi-Amit Shah's duo's attempt to break that has not succeeded, at least in their second term. So they have to go for, again, follow the dominant caste formula.
Now, considering that UP elections are scheduled for next year, how will the caste calculation play out in the state? And is there a community that the BJP is looking to woo? Liz says that in UP, BJP's plan has been to consolidate the Hindu vote. And even Yogi Adityanath's appointment as the chief minister was part of that plan.
Then there was this temple issue. BJP went ahead and laid foundation stone for the grand temple there. So that also the all attempts in the last 5 years have been to consolidate the Hindu vote. Still, the party is not very confident. There are certain Dalit community they have been trying to woo. There are certain communities which are already with BJP, whether it is OBC, whether it is Dalit. But BJP, so far, their attempt in UP has been to keep together the OBC vote using Narendra Modi's image and the kind of sops and welfare measures they are doing for the poor people. And as we know that recent moves to have induct almost 27 members from the OBC community as ministers in the Council of Ministers in the July 7 cabinet reshuffle, and the central government's move to give a constitutional status to NCBC, and again to counter or to overcome the court order to take away the powers of the state to decide the OBC caste, the government had gone ahead and amended the constitution to give these powers to the state.
She says that this makes it clear that the BJP plans to expand its voter base to different OBC communities. Plus, she says that this also holds true for Dalit communities.
As we know, the Valmiki community is already with BJP. There are other OBC Mauryas, Kumi, all these communities are already with BJP. BJP's attempt in this election will be larger Hindu vote. And also, like specifically when it comes down to micromanagement, they would try to expand the OBC support base and also the Dalit support base.
Now, one prominent community that has protested against the BJP are the Jat farmers belonging to Western UP. Recently, a Mahapanchayat in Muzaffarnagar was organized by the farm leader Rakesh Tiket, in which thousands of farmers had gathered to protest against the farm laws. But Liz says that the BJP is not very concerned about them because it knows that the community already favors the party.
BJP is not very worried because their communal polarization has already happened and it is deep down to the ground. That the Muslim Jat division. Obviously, BJP hopes that at the end of the day, when these people, despite all their bickering and their complaints and grievances, when they go to vote, when they go to the polling booth, they will think about their identity as a Hindu and would vote for BJP. Also, this is one side, the emotional way of handling things. And other ways, the party is also trying to keep them in good humor by clearing the dues for sugarcane farmers. They have cleared packages and there will be more money which will be released soon. And there will be huge announcements for projects in the region. So BJP, like I said, in an emotional plea they are making and one way. And apart from that emotional pitch, they are also trying to do governance initiatives in this area and to keep them with the party for the next election also.
But Liz says the fact that the BJP is making these calculations about communities and considering what combination will work for a particular state can be seen as a positive for the BJP leadership and its management.
Because once they realize that their strategy is not working, they have no ego or they have no qualms in changing it. It took no time for them to drop their experiments and go for the traditional way. For them, winning election is the most important thing. And also, like they have an ideological motive also, which is a target also, which also they will make some compromises to lose battle to win a war. This is what BJP leadership's strategy so far. And I think there are changes, obviously. And also in some areas, we can see that Prime Minister Modi is taking an upper hand. Even the people who are closely watching them would feel that he's even keeping Amit Shah at the sidelines for taking some decision. For example, what happened in Gujarat in the recent past, the appointments and even the replacement of Vijay Rupani, it all shows that Modi is actually establishing his upper hand in the party unit.
Though she does point out that the exception is Assam, where Himanta Biswa Sarma was the choice of Amit Shah in particular.
So it's like you can't say that conclusively that it is Modi's party or Shah's party. But both the leaders still continue to call the shots in the party. But so far what we have seen is like there is a give and take between the two.
And next we talk about the Hathras case. Over a year back, a 19-year-old girl belonging to a Dalit family in Hathras, UP, was allegedly gang raped and assaulted by 4 upper caste men and was left bleeding in a field. She was later taken to a hospital but died 11 days later. The incident grabbed national headlines and had become particularly controversial after the UP police and officials forcibly cremated the body of the girl at around 3 in the morning. In this segment, we speak to Indian Express's Jignasa Sinha, who talks about the current status of the case and how the girl's family is doing now.
So, it's been a year and the family is busy with the court proceedings. The case has taken a toll on their lives. The girl's elder brothers, both of them have lost their jobs. They're living with the family in Hathras now. The father, the mother, they're not working. Everybody stays at home all the time. That's what they've told us. And earlier they had 6 to 7 cows and buffaloes. And now they've sold all the animals because they couldn't take care of the animals. They don't step out of their house. None of their neighbors or relatives or even the villagers, they don't talk to them. So yeah, that's what's happening right now.
And Jignasa, I mean, is there anyone in the village that supports them?
No, so like I said, they have no support from the villagers. It's like they've been ostracized and they're on their own. All of the villagers, since most of them are upper caste, Thakur families and Brahmin families, they support the accused men and their families. So whenever their families go to court meetings or even to meet the accused in jail, half of the village goes with them. But with the victim's family, there's nobody. It's like they're alone. Like I said, they don't talk to anybody and nobody's talking to them in their own village. Before the case, they had their neighbors who would talk to them, ask them about their life and go to the market with them. But now there's nobody. So these people don't even go to the market now.
And one of the things that you describe in your story is that they still have the ashes of the 19-year-old in an urn in the corner of the house. And they still haven't performed the last rites.
Yeah, so the case was so traumatic, and especially after the forceful cremation, the father and one of the brothers came in a different ambulance. And to date, they're not even sure, if it was the girl who they really cremated. But now they do have to believe that it was the girl who the UP officials and police cremated in a very haste manner. And they feel that they'll wait for justice. Until then, they'll not perform the final rites. They'll wait. And so they've kept the ashes in a small urn and they've kept it in a corner of their house. They said they've saved it and will wait until both the courts, deliver justice to them. Because the case and how the villagers are treating them, the social injustice they're fighting every day, and also what's happening with the UP officials, how they treated them that time. So they're waiting for all that to happen, and then only will they be satisfied enough to perform the final rites.
And you mentioned that the girl's father can no longer work, and the brothers who worked in Ghaziabad, they have lost their jobs because they've had to deal with the court proceedings, the media interviews, and just the entire ordeal. Plus, because of the security situation in the village, they can't go anywhere right now. Has the compensation that they got from the government helped them in any way?
So yes, the UP government offered them a 25 lakh cash compensation, and the families relied on that. But the government, especially the CM, so he also promised them that one of the brothers will get a job and the family will get a new house. But both of those things have not happened yet, and the family has asked the SDM and other district officials multiple times that we would like a new job now, especially that we are living in the village. So we do want a new job, and they're desperate to shift, the brothers especially, because, they lived a happy life in Ghaziabad and their family was in Hathras and everything was going good for them that time. And now none of them have a job. And all they have is this 25 lakh rupees in their bank account, and they're also going to court. So they do need jobs. They do need a new house because they fear that once the CRPF teams, which are right now guarding their place, which are right now with them, they leave once, the court order once the case is gone. And after that, all these upper caste families, upper caste men might attack them. One of the brothers has 3 daughters and he fears that they'll be in danger.
And so what is the current status of the case?
Okay, so after the cremation, 2 cases were registered. One case was registered with the Allahabad High Court, and a special investigation team was supposed to submit a report about the forceful cremation, which was against the UP officials and police that time, who hurriedly cremated the body without anybody, like any family member present at the spot. But there's been no investigation done in this case so far. That's what we have been told by the lawyer. And the other cases of the alleged gang rape and murder of the girl, the cases with Hathras Special SC/ST Court. And witnesses are right now being taken to the court. Their statements are being recorded. I think 24 witnesses have right now been produced before the court. The defense counsel will then produce their witnesses. So that's the present status right now.
And in the end, we talk about javelin thrower Neeraj Chopra's coach. Last month when Chopra won the gold medal at the Tokyo Olympics, it was one of the biggest achievements in recent Indian sports history. Though now, Chopra's coach, Uwe Hahn, has been fired by the Athletics Federation of India. This decision comes only a month after Hahn, who is considered an exceptional javelin thrower himself, had criticized the Sports Authority of India and India's Olympic preparations. In this segment, we speak to Nihal Koshie, who writes on sports for the Indian Express, about this decision. Nihal, before we talk about the firing, could you talk about the kind of role Hahn has played in Neeraj Chopra's career?
So, Uwe Hahn is the German who is the only man to throw the javelin over 100 meters. After he threw over 100 meters, they had to change the center of gravity because it was posing a danger. It would go onto the track. But yeah, he was hired in 2017 with quite a bit of fanfare because the AFI said that we are getting Uwe Hahn, the only man to throw over 100 meters, and we have Neeraj Chopra here. We want a great coach for him. And they brought him. And it was Uwe Hahn coached Neeraj Chopra to his 2 big gold medals. One was the Asian Games gold, in which he set the then national record of 88.06 meters, and also the Commonwealth Games gold. So back-to-back gold medals was credit to Uwe Hahn. So he has played a huge role in molding Neeraj Chopra. And Horn continued to be the national javelin coach even in Tokyo. A year before Tokyo, Neeraj Chopra decided to train with Dr. Klaus Bartinus, who is another German. And Horn and Dr. Klaus have worked together in China. He's a biomechanic expert. So at the Olympic Games, hands-on coaching and just before that was done by Dr. Klaus. But Horn is the man who really molded Chopra in 2018, the Asian Games and the Commonwealth Games gold. And he remains actually as a contract till 2024 as the national javelin coach.
And what are the kind of things that Neeraj himself has said about Horn's style of training and his experience with him?
See, after coming back from Tokyo, Neeraj said that he did thank Horn for helping him win those 2 gold medals at the Asian Games and the Commonwealth Games. And he said he does respect him. But of course, he wanted to try training with Dr. Klaus because he felt his training methods were suiting him better. So see, Dr. Klaus was the coach. That is what AFI is saying. And even Chopra has thanked Dr. Klaus for helping him win the Olympic gold, which is a historic medal. But now everybody is just out to deny that UA Horn did anything at all, which is not the case. He was the one who helped Chopra win those 2 gold medals. Whether after that Chopra decided to move away and work with Dr. Klaus, yeah, he did that. But that credit cannot be taken away.
Right. So considering he's had a big role to play in Neeraj's career, what is the reason that the federation is saying that they have fired him?
So the official reason for Horn being sent home is that Anu Rani, the women's javelin thrower, and Shivpal Singh, the other men's javelin thrower, qualified. They were below par, frankly speaking, at the Olympics. And Horn was to have coached both of them. Anu Rani and Horn, probably it didn't work out. Even Shivpal Singh, I know for a fact. See, now when there's Neeraj Chopra's success in front of you, everybody tries to undermine everything else. But it's the fact that, so their official version is that since these 2 throwers didn't perform, which they didn't actually, they didn't even qualify for the final. So they're saying that Horn's performance is not good and they are sending him home.
Now, one thing that does stand out in terms of the timing of this decision is the fact that back in June, Horn had criticized both the Sports Authority of India and the Olympic preparations. Could you talk about what he had said back then?
Yeah, Horn had said that it was very difficult to work with people at the Sports Authority of India and the Athletics Federation of India. He's somebody who doesn't hold back when he calls a spade a spade. That is something officials in the Athletics Federation of India and the Sports Authority of India and the Sports Ministry don't like, because they don't want it to go out public like this is not working, that is not working, a foreigner coming here and criticizing because it makes news. But what we need to know is that yes, Neeraj Chopra won gold, but the system is far from perfect. That there's no doubt about it. We have a long way to go before we reach world standards in terms of nutrition, in terms of support, in terms of planning, in terms of vision. Just because you have a Neeraj Chopra, it doesn't even guarantee that Chopra will win gold at the World Championships. Not taking anything away from him. I hope he does win gold. But see, the system is not perfect, and that's what Horn was pointing out to. One thing he said was that just supplements at the national camp, it was not up to the mark. And somebody like Horn is coming from a background where everything is very structured, and that is what he wanted. His aim was to get Neeraj Chopra to throw 90 meters. Of course, at the Olympic Games, Chopra threw 87 and won gold, which was great. On the big day, he performed. But we all know that at major competitions, if Chopra can touch 90 or closer to 90, he's going to be guaranteed of a big medal. We know at the Olympics that Vetter didn't perform at his best. Thomas Roller wasn't there. No excuse. I'm not giving these as excuses. But we have to face reality. Now, if Vetter is going to come back in full form, he's going to throw 90 easily. Then if Chopra is not able to throw 90, there are other throwers also who can perform. So Horn is justified in his criticism in the sense that yes, the system needs to improve. And one thing I wanted to add was, any coach, if you want to survive in the Indian ecosystem, if you start criticizing the system, it's going to be very difficult. Once you get frustrated, I'm not saying the criticism is justified, but yeah, you'll ruffle feathers and you won't last long, because things take time. Even though things have improved in terms of funding and all, it is not world class at the moment.
And the other question that comes to mind is that after Neeraj Chopra won the gold, there were a bunch of people who came forward to take credit for it, saying that they have helped Neeraj win. But who all really helped him get there?
See, it's a combination of everything. Like when Neeraj Chopra wanted to go abroad, there was a press conference in which he said that I need competition. I can't be stuck here. Around the world, throwers are throwing and I'm stuck here in Patiala. Without competition, I cannot manage. He was almost pleading. That was in May. And then what happened? He managed to get a Schengen visa and he was supposed to go to France. But there was an internal ministry letter which was required, internal authorization letter, which never came from the French side. So Neeraj Chopra was stuck here. Earlier his trips to South Africa and Turkey didn't work out. So what happened was JSW, which is a sponsor, Manisha Malhotra was the head of scouting. She knew the Portuguese ambassador, acquaintance, and she reached out to him saying that this is a javelin throw and he wants to throw. So the ambassador said, yeah, if he wants to travel, then if there is an event there in which he wants to participate, he can travel. But when they checked, there was just one event, athletics event coming up, and there was no javelin throw in that. Okay, so again, Neeraj was stuck. But then what happened was Dr. Claus, who was the biomechanic expert, he happened to have coached the Portugal team, been in Portugal about 2 decades ago. So he knew the coach there, the person who was organizing the meet. So he said, see, our thrower wants to throw, he's stuck, he needs competition. Can you add javelin? Then they added javelin. See, so the Ministry of External Affairs was in touch with the Indian embassy in Paris, but it didn't work out. So the sponsor chipped in and it helped Neeraj in a big way because then he could go there, then he could travel, he could compete, and it really helped him. And of course, there's no doubt, like even at the National Institute of Sport, the executive director, Raj Singh Bishnoi, he helped Chopra when he wanted a mat to throw the medicine ball on. He got it made locally because you couldn't import during COVID. And the ministry has spent 7 crores on Chopra. They have sponsored his trips. They have made sure he's got the right kind of exposure. So it would be unfair to just credit the Athletics Federation or the Sports Ministry or the Sports Authority of India or even just JSW because everybody played a role. It was a public-private partnership which worked out. AFI hired the coaches, the Sports Authority, Sports Ministry funded Chopra. Everybody chipped in. So it was a team effort which worked. But like Johan said, and his criticism which didn't go down well, there are tons of things we need to improve. Just because you have a Chopra winning a medal doesn't mean tomorrow you're going to get 5 more golds. Like it's not that the medals we won at Tokyo is going to double the next time unless things improve.
You were listening to 3 Things by The Indian Express. Today's show was written and produced by me, Shashank Bhargav, and was edited and mixed by Suresh Pawar. If you like the show, then do subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. You can also recommend the show to someone you think will like it, share it with a friend or someone in your family. It's the best way for people to get to know about us. You can tweet us at Express Podcasts and write to us at podcasts@indianexpress.com.